Well, hello everybody. Yeah, done it again, bought another tent. So I've been waiting a wee while on this one. It's quite interesting. It's an Alpkit brand new Polestar tent. So basically it should be just about under a kilo, and it uses 2 walking poles to support it, plus I think a tiny wee mini pole at the back. I was quite attracted to it just because it looked quite strong and quite useful for UK conditions. So what's in the bag? We've got the outer stuff sack, we've got a tent, oh there's another peg, forgot about that one. We've got a little tent bag, we've got an inner tent, so this thing is a 2-skin. Got an inner tent here, and we've got the fly sheet in a green sail nylon with a PU backing, I think, because it appears to be taped. There's also one included pole with it, as well as using your walking poles. And we've got kind of, best described as DAC V-style pegs. Oh, and I should also say there's a bunch of patches, repair kit patches. Before we head out, I've just found this inside the stuff sack as well. This is their instruction sheet for pitching, which just seems to be kind of glossy paper printed. So you wouldn't want to take it with you, I don't think. It'll probably just get destroyed in the wet. Right, the first thing that's thrown me is there's 2 poles. I suspect this might be an error, and they've packed 2 into this instead of 1. So one of the first things it says is adjust your walking poles to 120 centimetres. Insert the rear pole on the underside of the fly sheet. So I've turned it over and I can see a wee sleeve running along here. The sleeve itself is quite tight there actually. As I was pushing it in, you have to be kind of careful you don't poke the pole through the fabric about 2/3 of the way through. Just feed it on gently. At either end it just uses typical metal clips that you'll see. They're kind of generic, you'll see them on nature hikes and quite a number of other tents these days. Almost like a flattened Gothic arch. Peg these out, 3 points, the guy line on the 2 ends. So we'll do that now. You'll notice it uses plastic guy runners, which are very reliable to be honest, finger friendly in the cold. They're just not my favourite, to be fair. I prefer a line lock. Okay, next on the instructions it says take your walking poles, set them to 120, handles to the bottom, and put them inside the pockets that are sewn in at either end. So you cross the poles over and then they pop in, the ends pop into these kind of rubber neoprene straps with eyelets on the top. Pop this up. So I've crossed the guy lines over at the top and then out to the sides, pretty much in line with the pole angle. It has a wee vent at the top which has a nylon sleeved prop vent with a velcro on it, so you can close it off. I'll show you up the back there, so it's quite wide at the rear. You could almost actually get 2 people in here at a push if you're doing an adventure race or something. So without the inner and with a Neo Air X light in it, it's yeah, quite roomy. So just attaching the inner, it's snap close buckles there with a wee release, and then it's just a hook and loop, typical kind of plastic ring and toggle, and there's 3 of them at the rear to pop it up. See what I mean by this kind of largely unsupported side here? I'm not sure whether it would be better wind going that way or whether to hit the wind straight into the head wall, which is inherently very strong. 2-way zip, and seems to roll back up to this centre toggle. I'm 5'8", as you can see my head is banging the roof on it. Just doable and no more, but I'm not sitting on my mat yet. So there's probably just enough room to get your boots in there actually if you wanted to tuck them out of the way at your head end. And there's also 2 fairly large pockets actually in the corner. Above my head here there's a wee elastic loop which would probably take a head torch. So Neo Air placed about central. Feet, yeah, not too bad. With a sleeping bag it's going to touch the inner. But hopefully it would stay clear of the fly sheet, so, and there's enough length in it certainly anyway, that's okay. Right, let's zip it up. So, inside, yeah, not coffin like, but it is quite tight, but it is what it is, you know. It's not really about carrying a lot of weight. and giving yourself a lot of room. It's minimalist. The vestibule is narrow, you couldn't cook in here, there's no way you could safely do it. You'd have to take the inner down and then cook in the centre, which you could do in really bad weather. The inner has solid polyester mesh, solid polyester inner on the sides, which will keep the breeze out, which is good, and above you is just midgy mesh, and then you've got a venting section at the back there at your feet. That's your two corner pockets as I showed you before there. They're quite large actually. Unfortunately the door is not a two-way zip, so you cannot vent it from the top. You can see PU coated on the back, so it's all nylon taped, but I think it's silicone on the outside. Okay, so it's a 20D silicone coated ripstop polyester. PU in the back is a thought, hydrostatic 3000, the floor is 5000 hydrostatic. One thing I noticed, which is a bit of a shortcoming as far as I'm concerned, is if you look at the reinforced area on the tent, it doesn't overlap where your tent pole, these rub against the nylon. So I suspect in wind and long-term use, this will be a wear point and probably one of the most key places that it will fail. Okay, to be fair, what I've done is I've kept the poles at the same 120, but I've shifted them in the way. I think I'd overstretched them that way. So I'm getting slightly more height off it at 120. I seem to have cured the door problem here, so it's no longer bowing and sitting flat. We're getting slightly more tension around the fly. So yeah, it's probably just a learning experience. It's maybe just a wee bit fussy to pitch. You can see this tail end here, and this sidewall is quite vulnerable. I'm not convinced it wouldn't be better with a central pull-out point here. And as I thought, this is a second pole, a spare one. I'd say a spare, I think it's just a manufacturing problem or a packing problem. They shouldn't have given me this. Right, okay, so first impressions of this wee beastie. Yeah, good value obviously, typical Alpkit. Good weight. Double skinned, which is obviously very good as well for condensation management. Really like the head wall design with the two crossing poles because that makes it very strong, but it does make me question whether you'd be better putting that end into the wind rather than the low end, which strikes me as more flappy. There's a couple of things that need to fix, i.e. they need reinforcing panels that will cover your pole baskets to make sure there's no wear and tear. That's a weak point definitely if you're using this on a long trek. A wee bit fussy to pitch, but that might just be learning, so I've tried to tighten up where I can. Not particularly big on the inside, it's wide enough but it's quite low, and obviously the head height and the body height is quite low as well. So anyway, we'll get it out probably this weekend. We'll try it on the hill and I'll report back to you once I've actually had a night in it and see how it goes. So thank you for watching, hope this helps you get a first look at this wee beastie if you're considering it, and if you have any questions just drop them below. Thanks again.